Welcome back to Meet the Writers. We're here with Ashley. First day of October.
Woo!
Yeah.
I'm excited. We love fall.
Trees are changing, and it's a good time to talk about values because it's change season. Sometimes it's good to think about new things and think about what is important to you. And so let's start. You were bringing an article, How Should Your Values Play Out in Your Business? Integrating values into your business. So let's start at the very foundation of that. Define value.
Ooh, that's a very good question. A value is something that you put a lot of importance on, something that you build your life around, something that if you were going against your value, then you wouldn't be able to have a good conscience. Something that you work extra hard to make sure is a priority.
And that difference from mission, because mission is this is what I want to do with my business, and values is how you take care of that and flesh it out in your regular day life. So where do you see, are there a lot of people that you think have a hard time taking mission and turning it in and properly fleshing it out through their values?
I think so. I think it is easy for people to get those terms mixed up, but I like to think of it as mission is kind of like a completed puzzle where you see where you want to go and you see what the picture should look like, and your values are kind of like the individual puzzle pieces, and they're what gets you to your mission, and they're the individual little parts that make it what you want it to become.
You mentioned, you quote Steve Jobs, which I love Steve Jobs and I've read and all kinds of things. The only thing that works is management by values, as I can read your quote here. Find people who are competent and really bright, but more importantly, people who care exactly about the same thing you care about. How does that drive out? Because is value sometimes not just your mission, what your business is, whatever that is, but then making sure the people that work with you have those same values? Is that the most important way to implement your values?
Yeah, I would say that's at least one of the most important ways. When you hire employees, they're obviously not going to have all of the same values that you have, and that's okay. But having the main ones that your company is mostly about, that's important. Like, for instance, if you had a company that you wanted to be really high priority about diversity, you would want somebody that also valued diversity and wasn't going to be making racial jokes or hating on somebody because of their ethnicity. You would want somebody that also understood where you're coming from and wanted to appreciate people because of their ethnicity.
Yeah, and I see this a lot in the new coming of small businesses that are saying, we're going to tackle environmentalism, or is that the right way to use that term? Environmental issues, whatever that noun form of that is. We're going to tackle environmental issues, but we're going to do it by how we ethically make tennis shoes. And you see unique ways of expressing your values through things that that seem unrelated. Or we're going to tackle people impoverished people in Africa and South America that don't have shoes by selling good quality shoes and then giving a pair away and expressing your values. Not just through the product you're selling or the service you're giving away, but in how you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Lastly, what do you think, how do you check up, how do you evaluate? Am I living out my values? Do I have any values? How do you evaluate this process?
I think you need to ask yourself questions like, why am I doing this? What is my company about? Why do I go to work every day? Why am I hiring this person? Is it going to get me to my overall mission or my overall goal? I think asking yourself questions on a regular basis is a really good way to analyze whether or not you're living out your values.
Yeah.
And I think also looking at your mistakes and wondering why you got to this point, and kind of retracing your steps to see if you had just pushed aside some of your values or if you had ignored them. So kind of like retracing different choices that you've made and analyzing the way that you do things, that can help you understand what values you're really living by versus the ones that you just say you want to live by.
Yeah, because I think a lot of times we taking a step back and saying, okay, these are the things I believe in. Am I actually living those things out? And those are that I think sometimes in small business means removing yourself from your business for a day,
Yeah.
6 hours, taking a break, doing something practical. Maybe it's 1 week you list all the values, and then the next week you say, how are these living out? Am I
Right.
breaking some of these values? There's lots of ways to evaluate that. Other
Right.
things, this is a great article that you can find in My Biz Perks. Are there other things that are related to this, or are things you've been writing that you think people might be interested in reading?
That's the only one that I've written so far about integrating your values. There was one that I did about motivating employees, and I talked a lot about giving them a reason for why they're doing what they're doing. And that kind of ties into values, understanding the motive behind something.
Yeah.
So you could check that one out. There hopefully will be more coming in the future.
Yeah, because sometimes it's not about. A lot of times when we go out and hire someone, we hire them based on their skill. Well,
Right.
sometimes I think of Good to Great with Jim Collins. He said that it's not about having the people on the bus in the right seats to begin with. It's about having the right people on the bus and figuring out
Right.
what in the world, what type of person is we're working together, and that will be more important than how their skills work together. And I think that's a value discussion.
Yes.
So lots of good things. Make sure you're checking out Ashley's writings. You can search what she's doing. You can search values. I'm assuming there'll be some other articles on there. You can talk about mission and about vision and about things in your small business. And I think the most important thing in this is if you're starting your business, put your values right up there and start saying, is honesty, integrity, diversity, harmony, honesty. You list some great things to think about. Which things are the most important to me, and I'm going to let those flesh out. And then figure out ways to evaluate it. And in each business, it's slightly different, but a lot of it is pulling yourself out every once in a while, not being so intrinsically involved in the bottom line that you can't take a step back or have someone help you take a step back and evaluate what you're doing. So make sure you're checking out all this material on My Biz Perks. Ashley, thanks for coming in October 1st. Can't believe it. Man, that's awesome. So we'll see you next time on Meet the Writers.